You're listening to Nothing's Off the Table, the podcast where no subject is too taboo to discuss. Now, please welcome your hosts, Andy Barker and Drew Del Pree. Are you muted? Yeah. How did I know?
And it was one of those things where I took it off, and then you helped me by putting it back on.
Of course.
And then we took it off again. But hey, man, it's all good. Welcome back to another Friday, another episode. How was it, Andy? How was the week?
It was a long week, and I'll tell you why. Because I've been waiting all week for this episode.
That's right.
So I'm kind of like a giddy little schoolgirl. You know what I mean?
Right. We did make it happen. We do have Professor Junqueira on today to talk to. So we're going to get to the wrap first, get it over with, right? I paid for it, so you don't have to. We'll get the wrap done, and we will get right to it and, get to talk with Professor here. We'll get a better introduction in a second. I love that music.
Speaking of introduction.
I love that music. That's right. So I paid for it, so you don't have to. Hey, if you're watching the Glenn Beck Show on 15 January 2025, hour one, where ESG wins. Do you remember ESG was the environment or social governance score that banks were implementing for loans? And they were also trying to put it on people to help with your interest rates to determine how you're moving in the economy, social, and governance scores. Well, anyway, a Texas court ruled that no pension funds can use ESG-related funds to shore up their backings, right? So that's huge, right? That these pension funds cannot be used in ESG funds. That's a large chunk of money that's taken out. Also, BlackRock has left the UN ESG Council. They've walked away. Really? That is another huge blow to the world implementation of the ESG score for the banks. If you wanted to look into it too, by the way, Bank of America did implement it quietly and got caught and then said they were removing it. Also, U.S. banks have declared they're pulling out of the UN-backed ESG initiatives. So there were big wins you can hear about. Those were hour one if you don't have all day. The PDB's Mike Baker, we talk about him all the time. The Presidential's Daily Briefing, great. If you have 10 minutes, just a great podcast. I think, Andy, you checked it out a couple of times, started listening. They have a morning and afternoon. Both are equally different, but can cover similar material. But both worth listening to. Anyway, he is out now recreating Lawrence of Arabia's crossing of the desert in World War I to help raise awareness for British SAS troops. And so who is it? Let's see. Mike, I always forget his last name, Slater. Mike Slater's the one who's stepping in for him, giving the Daily Brief. He's great. He comes out of Bill O'Reilly's camp.
Oh, he's producing the show, right?
Yeah, and he's doing it now while Baker's out. Right. So the Daily Brief's still going on. But what's really cool is every time Baker gets into comms, he's updating on the trip, right? So if you're not familiar with that, that was a month-long crossing. I believe it was a month-long crossing or weeks-long crossing. 5 guys, 10 camels. They were told Lawrence couldn't do it, and he did it. And at a pivotal point in World War I, and they're recreating that. And so it's really cool to hear the stories from that. As they go ahead and do that. Human Events last Thursday with Jack Posobiec around the 13-minute mark. Jack talked to the director of the documentary, Thank You, Dr. Fauci. That's a look back on his life and all the problems he has caused. Even a look at some of the false claims he's made during the HIV pandemic and COVID, right? Never forget, they locked us down for a long time for nothing. Lastly, Bill O'Reilly, he's still around. I haven't heard from him in forever, but that's why I pay for it, right? So you don't have to. Anyway, he is still around. And he spoke to Senator Tommy Tuberville about Pete Hegseth and how it's a no-brainer, how he's going to get confirmed for the DOD. So he'll be in. He has enough votes. I think he's got 51. They said confirmed.
Yeah, he's got enough votes, but the Democrats are going to drag their feet till the absolute last second.
They could do it all day long. Yeah. And that's a wrap, fellas. That is a wrap. All right. Without further ado, Andy, if you could just put up one quick picture, and I'm going to give you all a little introduction. I met Professor Rodrigo Junqueira.
I've got him side by side.
Yep, that's fine. Put them up side by side. I met Professor Rodrigo Junqueira back in 2017 when I got out of the Navy. That is what I looked like over on the, depending on how you're looking at it, left side of the screen. I met him and started training at his academy 8 years ago. And that is a picture of me last week, right before a lunch class. And just the love I have for this man and the techniques and the health and everything that he's given to me. words can't explain. So I am, without further ado, so happy to bring in Professor Junqueira. Congratulate him first off on opening his 3rd academy in our area. Welcome, Professor Junqueira. Thanks for coming on. Pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Lou. So thank you. First of all, thank you guys for having me here. It's always Lou knows me. It's always a pleasure to talk about jiu-jitsu and talk about other things you guys want to know. So it'll be a fun day.
Well, I'll just jump in and ask the first question since you said anything. What size pants do you wear?
Size?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
He's the funny guy, huh, Lou?
He is. So, Professor, you open your 3rd academy. You have one in Pittsburgh, Morgantown.
Yes.
And now, where's that 3rd one? Johnstown, right?
The 3rd one is Uniontown.
Uniontown.
Yeah, Uniontown is 20, 30 minutes from here. So
That's
it's
amazing.
close. Yeah, it's pretty close. All those 3 that are kind of close each other that can not be them. Uniontown, I'm not there all the time, but it's close enough. If I have to be there one day, I can just jump in and get in a car, and 20, 30 minutes I'll be there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, Pittsburgh, right? You're one of the only, you're not one of, right? You're the only Brazilian teaching in the area in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
How the hell did you get to, how'd you get to Pittsburgh?
Yeah, on north of Pittsburgh, yes. Cranberry area, Wexford. I've been there since 2004. So it's been a long time, 20 years ago. I started in my garage. All that, like almost all Brazilians started. So you start in a small group. Back then, nobody knew what jiu-jitsu was in the area. So it was very challenging. Let's put it that way.
It's a big wrestling area.
Yes. Yeah. It's in the beginning. It's still those days we have a lot of wrestlers come and try because it's very similar. And when they go out of school, usually you train wrestling, I don't know, since you're 5 years old until when you go to school. Some of them train still in college, but when they leave, they don't have where to go train. So when they see jiu-jitsu is very similar, they usually tends to come and try, and they end up loving it because it's almost the same thing, like with submissions. So they like a lot.
So, Professor, you said started in your garage, man. That brings back so many memories. Even as close to relative time now in Pensacola, I had guys in my garage. I had mats in there, and we were getting together because there was nowhere to train. To have the troops over, and I'd broken my ankle in a judo tournament. It was a national level judo tournament. Broke my ankle. Had a full leg cast on, still on the mats. I said I'll get some kind of training in. Like an idiot.
Yeah.
But it's just
it's better than nothing. That's why I always tell Lou, like, it's better than don't do anything and be in a couch. So good you have got the mats there and do some kind of a training, exercise. And now with the internet, not back then, I don't know when it was there, but those days you can, it's not good, not like, it's always better you to go to academy and a good professor and good instruction.
Oh, sure.
But if you don't have, you can go on YouTube today. Thousands of techniques. Back in my day, it was no internet, so we used to wait. I don't know how long to get in a magazine. It was 1 month, once a month magazine, and they will have techniques on that magazine. You can try and experiment, but the world is so different now. I think it's way faster to learn, and the belts are getting faster because you have so much more access. And moves, and you learn, and it's so much faster.
That leads me to a question. It's kind of feel free not to answer it, but I'd love to hear your thoughts as a professor on the Gracie online belt system.
Well, you're throwing to the roof right there on the first question. Couple 5 minutes.
You don't have to answer.
No. I'm not that kind of guy. I'll answer. I'll put my opinion right there. Lou's know me better than that. So, if you back in my day, that would be totally unacceptable. The kind of online instruction, something like that, just training by online. You need a professor, you need an instructor to be there and correct you. But the idea of them was, if you're in the middle of nowhere, let's say in Alaska and in a mountain, there's no academy, there's no place 3 to 4 hours for you to train with. So I think it goes back to what I said before. So it's better than nothing. You get 2, 3, 4 guys, 5 guys together, and you start doing something, learning from the internet, and try to do something. It's going to be much slower process, because you don't have a prime instructor correcting and seeing what you're doing. Jiu-jitsu is very, very, very technical. So when you show, I'm saying because I'm seeing that for 20 plus years, so you show a technique, and it takes time for people actually understand the technique and all that. So I always, when I teach some technique and people are going to try it, I always circle around the academy, and I'm usually correcting everyone. And I stop people, I reteach the technique. It's super technical. So on that aspect, you have to be an academy. But if you don't have academy, you don't have a chance, you're in the middle of nowhere. So I think it's good. It's better than nothing, for sure.
I love that thought, man. That whole philosophy. I couldn't agree more. Even I grew up with judo, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and when I didn't have training partners, it's always, hey, there's always things you can do,
Yeah,
solo drills, but it does suck. Judo is can't really do that on the internet, but
yeah. Yeah, I think,
jujitsu. I'm sorry.
yeah, I
Go
think,
ahead.
yeah, internet is more like to help you to understand. Let's see, you just did a class today, and I don't know, you got caught in a move, or you will struggle to do a sweep, and then you can go to the internet. I always did that internet since I was on other martial arts like boxing or uh, kung fu, all those things. So I always, not back then, but I always try to look videos to learn in the real fight. So in the real fight, you see a jiu-jitsu in the words, you can see the fighters and see how they get away from a technique, or how they execute the technique. I think it's a very, very good tool for you to have when you're learning something. Everything you can Google and go on YouTube. You have a master class on YouTube. You just have to do like a little research, because a lot of bad things too. So you have to have a little knowledge how differentiate who is bad and who is good, and who you can watch, who you cannot watch. So I always tell my students, make sure you're watching good things, not like bad things, because you can go backwards.
For sure. And you know what, the internet nowadays is so much more reliable with the quality of instruction out there, as opposed to when, back when you started, I started, and you, you had to be real careful what you got on then, because you're probably getting a bunch of garbage.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, you have to watch out what you're watching. I usually tell my students, I know everybody goes online, and I go watch fights, go watch the words, fights, the words, or good tournaments, or instructor that they are good, came from a good lineage. So it's very important. They just don't go and watch whatever can. There's a lot of bad things there. So
Well, speaking of lineage, how did you get started in jiu-jitsu?
that's that'll be 2 or 3 hours, but I'll try to resume that. So I was always into fighting. I grew up watching Rocky movies and Van Damme and Bruce Lee, all that. So I was always fascinated by that world, like lifting weights and all that. So I start lifting, of course, when I was like, I wasn't allowed to go to any academy to lifting back then. The doctors, they were not. They were against that, saying you won't grow up if you lift weights and all that stupid stuff. So I like, that doesn't make any sense. So I used to go to a supermarket and buy normal weights to lift at home without people knowing, because my dad didn't want me to go to the gym. I was not allowed. So I had to wait until my 16 to join a gym and lift weights. But martial arts and the fighting, I could do it. So I joined a Kung Fu academy when I was 13, 14, because Bruce Lee and all the Van Damme movies. So Jiu-Jitsu was not knowing back then. It was 80s. So, and then did Kung Fu, I did some boxing, did some Muay Thai, I did some kickboxing, all that. The Jiu-Jitsu part is very interesting because it took me a while to try Jiu-Jitsu. Because how Jiu-Jitsu, let's put away, start happening in Brazil and people knowing in Brazil was very aggressive way they use to, because people didn't know what Jiu-Jitsu was, even in Brazil. So what they did to prove the efficiency of the martial arts? They start challenge everyone. And then went really to the streets and everything. So can you imagine in the 80s and 90s how bad it was? And they are kind of saying, we are the best, we're the best martial arts. So went backwards. I have a learning Kung Fu and karate. You have to be like, have some values about not being brag about yourself, respect everyone. So that was very deep on me. So that saying that, I didn't like the posture because they're super arrogant and super, but they have to do to prove a point. So it took me, I don't know, 4 or 5 years to do the first class. And funny part, I joined a big academy in Brazil called Companhia Atlética, and they have boxing and jiu-jitsu, and they are next to each other. So I was doing my boxing and seeing jiu-jitsu pass on my background, going towards the class. That was 1995, and that's when Royce, the first UFC was 93. So there when jiu-jitsu exploded in Brazil. But I was like, I'm not trying this, you know what I mean? But I was doing my boxing, a lot of people passing. And by curiosity, they're like, I'm gonna try this. Because there's a lot of people going to that room. About like 80 people, 90 people in that class. Yeah, it was getting crazy. Say, okay, I'm gonna try this. I put my gi on and I try my first class, right? Look how different the world was in jiu-jitsu back then. My first class, I was already lifting for a year, so I was already kind of big, not huge, but a big guy. I went to roll straight to the professor, right? The black belt in class. My first jiu-jitsu class ever, okay? I went right to the black belt. Okay, I'm good. What I have my determination, and my toughness, right? I'm seeing Rocky movies. I'm not gonna quit. So what else can happen? There's no punches and kicks involved, so I'll be fine. You know what I mean? So we started the fight, and I was probably tapping. And by the way, I was 200, probably 210, and he was like 170. And okay, what can go wrong, right? I can muscle, whatever. And then I was literally tapping every 30 seconds, right? But then I was thinking about, always tell to my students that what happened that day, and of course I didn't quit. I just keep coming forward. That's how I learned, right? You watch your Rocky movies. What are you gonna do? You're gonna keep moving forward.
Yeah.
No matter how much beat you're getting, you'll keep moving forward. So I was tap every 30 seconds, getting destroyed in very bad spots, but I never quit. Like, okay, you keep make me tap, but I'm just keep coming forward. That's how I learned how I supposed to be tough. But the way that I was raising on that kind of atmosphere, like fighting and not quitting and lifting, like hard. So I'm the kind of guy who likes to be challenged and like the pain, like the suffer. I've been training already for a lot of years in my life. So I really, really fall in love with that, because if that guy I was way heavier than him, and he could manhandle me that easy and make me tap so easily, I've just fallen in love with the art. Like, that's what I want to learn. Yeah. But those days we are doing a much better job retaining people because the world is so much different now. And I agree. I always tell my instructors too, I'm 1 out of 10 people. Like, that mentality, it's not for everybody. So a guy who doesn't have the mentality, you end up quitting. So I usually don't let people roll for the first month because they have to gradually start understanding jiu-jitsu, putting the gi on, knowing some positions, what you're gonna do, how you behave, how slowly. It's a very much slower process than back then on my time, but that's how jiu-jitsu was back then. Like, almost like a filter. If you're not tough, you're not gonna survive. So get out. You know what I mean? That's like yeah. That's easy what it is. But I know. But then it's another side. Like, a guy like me. Like, let's see a professional football player or a wrestler or an athlete come to my gym. I usually let them roll a little bit, just some specific training, because that kind of a person, he'll be very bored if I don't put them to try something, because I know that those people are like me, so they're gonna be drive by the challenge, or how tough was that role, or how manhandled he got. Like, if people like me, usually, like, those people, they're gonna tap, they're gonna fall in love for that. But the majority of people are not like that. So you have to be very, very slow process those days to go gradually to put them on the environment. I know how challenging it is to even show up in a jiu-jitsu class, because I've been doing this for 20 years. So a lot of people and a lot of tough guys that passed through my school, some of them told me, like, Professor, I came here in the first class, I was outside vomiting.
Right.
Literally, they're like,
Yeah.
I was outside vomiting, how nervous I was. And I like, but it's just, you're not, if you think about showing up in a martial arts academy or a jiu-jitsu academy, and you think you're gonna handle something, you're not gonna tap, you're gonna do well, that's not gonna happen. It's that sometimes that crazy how those things gets. How are you gonna expect, like, training with someone that's been doing that for 5-10 years and you never did before, and then you think you can do well? That's almost ridiculous. If you think about, you know what I mean? In the other sports, they can understand a little bit better. You're going to play tennis with Federer or Djokovic, you know, oh, I can't even get a racket.
Yeah.
But basketball, the same way. You're gonna play Jordan, you're gonna, oh my God, the people. But if, for some reason, fighting, if you're strong, people think they can handle, and that's where it gets people out of jiu-jitsu the most, because they have that pressure inside them. They have to do well to step on an environment like that. But you don't have, I'm not expecting you to do well at all. What I expect you to come to try a class and keep coming. The guy, they have a totally different idea that the guy that I respect the most is the guy that can give me a hard time in a minute in a fight. That's not the guy who I respect the most. The guy that I respect the most is the one that is getting beat up every single day, and he keeps showing up every single day for class. That's the person I respect the most by far. So I think what leave people out of jiu-jitsu the most is that's the number one problem for sure. They don't want to be there to see. There's a reality check right there.
Yeah.
And they don't want to do that. They're super nervous, and you know, don't have idea how different and how surprising jiu-jitsu is when you see a person walk in and you see, oh, that's a very nerdy kid, weak, looks like he can handle maybe a week of jiu-jitsu, and that person is the toughest person in the academy.
Yeah.
It's crazy how that works. And walk in a meathead, huge, mean face, all like, oh my God, that guy's tough.
Well, that
A
goes.
week. In a week, he quit jiu-jitsu.
Well, Professor, one thing you told me in the beginning, and you know, feel free to expand on it here if you'd like. But you
Mhm.
said to me, you know, if it were just a matter of knowing the techniques, I could show that to you in 6 months. But in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you have to be able to perform the technique under pressure in the fight. That's what makes the difference. But
Yeah.
if it was just about you being able to imitate a technique, I could show you them all in 6 months, is what you told me.
Yeah, that's why I was. Let's go backwards to the online training that you guys asked me. So
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I can show you. You can learn a lot of things from internet. You can be a black belt on internet just looking. And I ask you, Lou, show me an armbar from guard or show me a choke from back, and you're gonna execute that, right? And like even
Right.
you can train that. If you train that for 6 months, only one thing, not even 1 month. You're training every single day, 1 month, that only technique. Maybe you masterize the technique. You'll be a black belt showing the technique. But one thing you're doing the technique perfectly. The other thing is doing with someone that is fighting you back.
Application.
Changes the
Absolutely.
whole scenario. I can show boxing moves, right? I know a jab, I know an uppercut, I know all those moves, but doesn't mean I want to fight Tyson. It's just
Yeah.
it's just one thing. It is a reality check. What that's what it is. You have to. I can know 40 techniques, masterize those, showing perfectly. But what about is the same a chess game, right? You know how to play, but how gonna make you a better chess player? It's practicing, it's
Yeah.
training, it's going play all the time, all the time, all the time. So that's how in jiu-jitsu is very, very real about that. We roll 30, 40, 45 minutes, sometimes 1 hour straight. So you're literally is a lab place. So you're putting out your techniques, people trying to do with you as much as you're trying to do with them. So in different levels, same level, you're finding a blue belt, finding a black belt. So it's a different speed. You're finding a white belt, so it's total lack of technique, but maybe stronger. So is very different. Every person is very different each other. So you learn in all aspects involved in a fight, in a role. I don't say fight, but in a role, in a jiu-jitsu role. So that's the beauty of the sport. You can go 100% with all your effort. You're not gonna hurt someone. You're gonna hurt their ego, but it's not gonna hurt them. They can tap. That's what I always say. You guys always can tap. So
Yes.
you'll be out of that storm. So it's one of the most challenging sports I ever been through.
Okay.
By far. Yeah. Mentally,
tell the
more
kids the
mentally than
penalty-
physical.
I tell the kids the penalty for going to sleep in the academy is a Sharpie mustache. You're gonna get the good one. Don't go to sleep. Tap.
Yeah, don't
Here
go
the
to
penalty's
sleep.
a Sharpie mustache.
Yeah, you always can tap and get out of there. That's the good thing, because on the streets, that won't be tapping. You
Now
can
you
literally
said
choke out of that or die. So it's
you made a joke one time. I think based off of reality, and if you could explain it. I remember you were saying, you know, in Brazil, you don't tap for pressure. You go to sleep. It's a matter of pride. And you said,
Yeah.
and guys know that and they put it on you. Do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, that's everywhere. I think when you not when you're a beginner, right? When you're a white belt, or
Sure.
I don't mind that, because it's a totally new experience for you. But
You're saying
if
like
you put
Bernardo's pressure.
yeah, there's a good example. And I knew some people just do the pressure on purpose just to make sure if you're gonna tap or not. So I like, no, I'm gonna. I mean, that's how I learn. You know what I mean? It's not hurting. It's just miserable, but it's not making me go to sleep or breaking an arm or breaking a leg or something like that. So it's just, and it's most of them are very mental. It's funny how the beginners, show up at the academy, and then you mount or you put them on a crossbody, and they get in that panic mode, like phobia about that situation, that pressure in the chest and someone on top of your chest. You're not used to that, and they usually get super in panic mode, and then the breathing changes and everything. Every time that you panic, that's the worst thing can happen to you. You just freeze. Your breathing changes, and you need to breathe for everything. So you start hyper-accelerate everything. Your heart, your lungs get tight, everything, and you literally panic. But with time, you start learning how to be under those positions and not feel that uncomfortable. That's how jiu-jitsu is all about. Like you start learning how to be cool under the storm. If you're in a bad mount or like Marcelo pressure is, you want to tap on that. That whole how strong it is and how panic mode you get, but it's just you just have to embrace it, kind of almost, and you get more comfort with that. It's a bad position, but it's not like when I started and you're like, oh my god, what is this? Like, oh, knee on belly, that is super bad position that you want to tap. I remember I was a white belt. I probably tapped over some knee on belly, some mean purple belts, brown belts back then. They didn't care too much with a white belt or you just begin. They'll beat your ass. That was,
Right.
yeah, back then it was pretty bad. Today it was like we're doing much better job and keep people in jiu-jitsu. So that's a good evolution.
I think one of the other reasons why retention in jiu-jitsu is not where we would like it to be is that it's hard, man. And Americans want that instant gratification. There's no instant gratification in jiu-jitsu.
That's a very good question that I was interested in talk about this, because that's what frustrated the most those days is like it's almost like they don't let jiu-jitsu show them how good jiu-jitsu are for them, so they quit. Especially those days, they are quitting way too soon. Way too soon. Even back then, people quit a lot because it's not for everybody. It's a very, very rough and tough sport, right? But even back then, they will quit later on. They do 1 year, 2 years. So you have a little bit understanding more about what jiu-jitsu is. Those days is like 2 months. I see people quitting 2 months.
Wow.
So how you can quit something that you didn't even know, you don't know anything about the sport that you're doing. It's that drives me crazy how soon people quit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's not you not let jiu-jitsu show how good this is. Let jiu-jitsu just let give some patience. Like, this is a good thing. That's how it's hard, because it's very good. Everything in life that is unbelievable good, every unbelievable thing is super hard. If you want a bigger house, you want a big house, you want a nice, really nice car, how much harder you have to work? Nobody gives anything for anyone for free. You have to work hard.
That's right.
So is jiu-jitsu the same way? I think almost like when those people quit, it's almost like, okay, you don't deserve to learn jiu-jitsu. Sometimes I think of myself to don't get too much frustrated on that. So I like, you don't deserve, because it's so good. You know what I mean? It's a tool that your life gets so much better when you're doing that, mentally, physically, especially mentally. You know what I mean? Prepare you being helping every aspect of your life. Jiu-jitsu.
I tell you, I've learned so many life lessons just from jiu-jitsu.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
And those people frustrate me so much because, unfortunately, my heart's broken. I can't train anymore medically.
Yeah, I think Lou told me about your conditioning.
Yeah. So I had a good friend of mine. I won't mention his name out of respect to his family, who passed away doing a seminar in Brazil on the mats.
Wow.
From a massive heart attack. I'm sure you know who it is. I'll tell you offline. But so not only that, but now it's in my head mentally. I'm even scared to get on the mats anymore. You know.
Yeah, I think Lou was mentioning to me that, and I think I'm not. I mean, I'm talking about if you allow by doctors to start training again,
Mhm.
I recommend you to go like super slow. Your problem, if you're healthy enough to train back, I think your problem is more mental.
Yeah.
So it's a ways that you can go around and start doing drills only, no fighting at all. Just being there and be in the jiu-jitsu environment and learning and watching fights and all that. You start doing drills a little bit, maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes to start growing, 5 minutes. And then when you're going to do a roll, get a very person that you can trust completely, like a
Definitely.
professor of the academy or something. And then, okay, professor, can you roll for 1 minute? And go super, almost like a flow, more like flow. Just
Yeah,
get you
yeah.
moving, just get your heart a little bit working. And this slowly is going to be a very slowly process, but I think you can do it. It's a matter of how put your mind there and be very slow. I tell people when they get hurt or something like that, a knee or surgery or something like that, you need to go very slow because it's more mental. You think you won't be able to train again or maybe to lift weights again because you just opened that shoulder and you think it's very sensitive. You could just open and did a surgery there. So you want to go back to that scenario again. But I think if you're allowed to go by doctors and more professionals, I think it's more like a mentor. I think you can, but you have to go to a good spot, a good academy. Don't
Yeah,
go to
most definitely.
a academy that is like
Bob's
you know what I
Discount
mean. That
Jiu-Jitsu.
kind of
Right.
environment
The meathead,
it's not healthy. You know what I mean. You have to go know where you're going. It's a good place.
yeah, I found a good place around here. It's taken me a while, but it's a lot. I'll tell you this story offline. I don't want to bore the audience with it, but yeah, it'd be a shame. I love jujitsu with all my heart. I got into jujitsu because of judo. I went to
Yeah,
jujitsu to work on my.
it's the same art.
Yeah, well, I wanted to improve my ground game for judo, and then when I
Hmm.
found jujitsu, I'm like, oh man, this is it.
Yeah,
This is where I want to
fun.
be.
Yeah, it's
So,
less pain for the judo because judo
oh
get
god,
taken
yeah.
down. Those
Ugh,
takedown hurts, man. Get in your back.
that's
Yeah.
right.
It's
Especially when you get to our age, it's
exactly. No, I can't do. I couldn't do. I couldn't do. It's hard. Judo is harder to train than jiu-jitsu for sure. It's good. And another aspect that was like to bring it is that's also how jiu-jitsu keep people in track. So I always tell my students about the lifestyle too. So
Yeah.
if you, let's put it away, I always tell Lou, if you got in everybody, like you want to eat a bad food or you want to go to McDonald's or something like that, is no better way to pay that price than jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is going to show how that food was bad for you. Because
that's right.
the first, the second row, your tongue will be on your chest. You're going to feel miserable every time. So it helps you in everything because next time you're going to think about eating a bad food. Don't get me wrong. I get my McDonald's times sometimes.
Yeah.
But the problem is the often.
Right.
Everything in life, I think, is the problem is when people do often. I'm not against anything. Like if you wanna get your beer on a Friday night or your glass of wine. The problem is if you do that every single night and the amount of you're doing. So you don't get 2 bottles of wine in a Friday and then go train on a Saturday.
Yeah, right.
Actually, you can try that and see how it goes.
Yeah.
It doesn't
You
go
see
well.
how bad that will be. And jiu-jitsu help me myself keep in check. So I get my resting, I get my food good, I try to be as healthy as possible because I'll pay the price on the mats.
Yeah.
So gets you in your it's crazy how change people's lives when they start doing jiu-jitsu and see, oh, I ate really bad yesterday, Rodrigo, and I'm feeling horrible today on the mats. And then I usually tell them, well, you know what to do. You know what change, you know what I mean? Or I didn't sleep well, was doing something, or I went to a party, and then now I'm here training, but I'm feeling like 20%. So you know what happened. You know what I mean? You know, so
Facts.
it's a really reality check that if you're not doing healthy things outside of the mats, you're gonna pay the price inside the mats. So, and also I teach is a huge part of my academy. Lou knows me for all those years, trying to teach values and manners to people.
Yes.
So for me in my academy, he knows I don't give black belts if you're not a good person or if you're trying to be a good person. That counts more for me than the technique aspect. Of course, you have to be technical enough to get your black belt, but if you're super technical and you're badass, you'll be at the whole academy, but you're a mean person or you don't have good values in life and you're trying to be a good example. When you put a black belt, you're example for people. So it's kids watching you, it's white belts watching you, it's people. How can I tell someone something that I don't actually use in my life?
Yeah.
That's the worst thing you can do. Like, I'm trying to teach how to be a better person every day, but I'm very bad outside of the mat. So
That
that
black
doesn't
belt makes you an
doesn't
ambassador of jiu-jitsu.
exactly, that's what it is. You have to behave like one. Since I I, I got that belt, is a huge you get a huge responsibility to how to behave on the mats, outside of the mats. So that's how, for me, that's the most important part. We have to try to be as a better person every day, and not only that. For me, you have to be trying to be a better husband, a better father, a better son, it's trying to get as much good in life as you can be in every aspect of jiu-jitsu. Don't do injustice, or if you see something in the street, like let's say example, a girl getting beat up for a guy, there's no way I won't do anything, even
Right.
though it would be really bad for me because we know how those things works. But that will never happen. Or a car accident is something that is struggle. That's doesn't get, it's out of my mind that I won't do anything about it. That's
Strong
part of who
moral
I am. It's part
character.
of my values. It's part of the thing that I learned my whole life. So that's, for me, this more important thing than be a badass or beat everyone in the academy.
Now,
Pretty much.
I wanted to ask you a question from being a professor with your
Mhm.
students. I taught judo for many years, and I want to ask you the pride you feel each time you promote a student.
How I promote?
No, the pride that you feel, how good it makes you feel when you're
Yeah.
able to promote.
Oh yeah, it's well, look, when I always tell them, I don't give belts, they earned it.
Right.
So when they say, "Oh, thank you, Rodrigo. Thank you, Professor," like, you earned this. I'm not. I'm just being the guide here. It's not like it's more their value. They get a purple belt. That you deserve that belt. You did the whole work. I just help you to reach that belt. I
Mhm.
just help you as much as I can to perform, or how things you have to do to reach that position or that belt, or some problem we may have. Uh, when you're a professor in the academy like that, there's a lot of people come for you for outside problems too.
Sure.
So, and
Yep.
actually is really big. That it's not. I think maybe 40%. They see you as a little bit of example, and I try to help as much as I can if the topic that I'm familiar with or experience something like that. I'm not. I try to help as much as I can, give him my little bit opinion if that counts. So I try to guide them where to go, or to look, that problem is this, or you have to try to fix their way, or go into the different path if it's necessary. But that's a huge in a environment like that. People look at
Professor,
you. Huh?
I was gonna say one thing I like that you say during graduation every time is that it's my, it's my academy. you're promoted, when I think you're when I think you've earned it,
Mhm.
and so if you feel like you don't deserve, then work harder. But if I'm
That,
promoting you, this
that's pretty
stripe,
much,
you've earned this stripe, and if you feel you didn't, then you need to work harder because this stripe is going on your belt. And
yeah,
unless you
that's
want to
pretty
lose them
much,
all.
yeah, pretty much what I say. And sometimes people don't understand. Sometimes it's not a lack of technique, and they don't understand. It's your behaving. I'm seeing everything. I'm seeing how you're rolling your white belt. I'm seeing how you roll your woman, a much smaller woman than your knee on belly, being mean, or I just don't understand that.
Right.
How much ego you have to have. Let's see, if you're high rank the woman or a older person, and you are heavier, and you're just beating that person, making that like what is the point here? What is the goal? What is your goal? Is you have to is when you train with someone have to be two-way street. Like you have to learn, they have to learn too.
Mhm.
So what is the point? You you message your ego. So I just don't understand that. I never understood people like that. So let
I
them
don't
train
either.
jiu-jitsu too. Let them pass your guard, then you're gonna train your defense. Let them mount on you, you're gonna train your escapes. And sweep them 20 times if you want, but gently.
Right.
That's what I do. Because when they're getting swept, they are training her base, and they are learning how to. So the human body works, how they relearn is by pain, most of it. So I give you the example. Professor, how it's very hard to get in a triangle position, right? It's because I'm being there. I tap thousands of times on the technique. It's not I'm good. Nobody's good. You don't learn. You don't born good. You
Right.
don't. You have talent, but you don't born. Oh, I know this. I can do it already. No, it doesn't work that way. You're gonna learn by experience. So I probably tap 3,000 times a triangle choke. So my brain process already when the guy is throwing the legs up, I'm already, oh, that's danger. The red flags start beeping. So that's pretty much how you get good on the those defense. Is being
Professor.
there. So every time that you're tapping, you actually learning. So don't
Yes.
get mad and don't get furious and don't get very frustrated when you're tapping.
Win or learn.
You're learning.
Win or learn.
Yeah.
Professor, I have a question for you. Now, before we have one question we're going to ask you about, but when you say, training and talent and every day, when you were coming up in Brazil, we're going to ask you about the Marcelo fight coming up here, but you've had an opportunity where some of those taps when you fought Marcelo, tell us about fighting with Marcelo Garcia.
Yeah, I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to meet him when I got married. I moved to a city called Poços de Caldas in Brazil. And he was there training with Paulo Rezende, my professor. He was a blue belt, I was just white belt. And when we got along pretty well, we got a very, like, pretty old. I was 10 years, I'm 10 years older than Marcelo. And that was very good experience because I saw him the way he used to train, the way he used to behave, how serious he was in such a young age. Back then, he was 16, and he was training like a professional already. He was training four times a day, the 7 a.m. one, then the 8 or 9 one, or 6, and then 8, and then the 3 p.m. used to be the one that I was to go train, and then another one at 7 and 6:37 in the night. So it's very, very lucky that I saw that kind of athlete, one of the best of all times, their mindset, the seriously training to be a professional, and how professional he was in such a, and not only the age but the time. Like that was a long time ago. So we didn't have internet, we didn't have anything. It was a very prime times in especially in jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu was just growing up in Brazil in the 90s. So it was very, very, very interesting. I was lucky enough to see all that, and it was very good for me. They helped me now when I'm training people, when I'm teaching people, and I know the kind of hard work and the mindset you have to be a champion. So I was pretty lucky.
And our academy is affiliated with Marcelo Garcia, correct?
Yes, yeah. I since he opened the affiliation, was always I talked to him a bunch of times before, but he was still fighting professionally, so he didn't have too much time for the association. Then when he started focus a little bit more, he opened the association, Marcelo Association. I was probably the second academy, I don't know, because he knew I was when he called me. Like, you still want Rodrigo? He called me Big Rodrigo. Like, of course. And then I just affiliated right away. And then we've been, I don't know how long we've been affiliated. But another thing about Marcelo training is, yeah, I trained with him like 4 years. It was 4 years that before he moved back to São Paulo. And end up I moved back to São Paulo too. And then he moved to America. And then I moved to America. We kind of almost falling past. Now he's far away. He's Hawaii. But yeah, I used to train him every time that I was there. I always want to try to fight to the best of the academy because I like the punishment and I will learn from them. Sure. So I always, every time that I train, I will invite him to roll, which maybe sometimes it was more like he want to train with better people. You know what I mean? I think it was more like, okay, because I was not hard roll for him at all. Like tap like every minute, every 30 seconds. So for him was like, okay, Rodrigo, let's go train. But for him was not good. But I thank him for that. To do those rolls with me, and then I learned so much. But I used to train him every time that I was there. I would call him and other big names of the academy back then. And when I used to go to visit him in New York, I always roll, and he's always miserable. So it's very frustrating. If you roll, it's good to roll. It's good to roll with him. It's wonderful. I want to, but it's a backside of that because you feel like you don't know anything, and it can be very. I tell him all the time about this. It's like it's not as much as I like. Is a bad part to roll with him because I'm doing this for a lot of years. Yeah. And you're doing something for more than 20 years and you go roll with him and it's that bad, you feel it's very hard on your mental. But I love, don't get me wrong, I love.
It just brings you to the realization that some people are just on a completely different level.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's a good reality check. If you're feeling, I'm good. Get up everybody at the gym or whatever. Go there. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. Professor,
hell back. But
we need to get you back on because there's so much more that I want to talk about that we didn't get a chance to. So
yeah, I didn't even explain anything about how we moved to America. Just the part. There's so much more. Yeah,
if you're saying there's a part 2, I'm in.
Yes. Yeah, Lou knows how I like talk about jiu-jitsu and talk about experience. So I'm down. I love talk about. I could stay here for 3 hours. If it's jiu-jitsu, sure. I'm trying to help people or try to be in a path of jiu-jitsu. It's pretty good for me enough.
I mean, we haven't even talked about the community, the jiu-jitsu community. You know, it's such a family community.
Well, let's agree to call. Let's agree to call it part 1.
Yeah, all right. That's I always tell people, like, you get very tight when you suffer together, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And you guys were in the army, and you're probably tight because of that. You wouldn't even pain together when you have some bad situations together. You get super, super tight.
That's fact.
That's how jiu-jitsu is. You're choking each other in miserable positions and trying to break somebody's arm, and you trust that person because if you tap, they have to let it go. So look how intense that is.
Yeah.
Your life is literally in someone's hands on the choke scenario. If that person don't let it go, the choke, I always try to alert my students. You can have some brain damage and even die.
Yes.
Yeah.
So your life is literally in someone's hands. So how intense and how deep can be that situation?
Couldn't agree more.
Well,
Well-
Professor, we're going to wrap it up here. We'll call it part 1. Don't go anywhere. Andy's going to finish with his segment, and we'll close out with our veterans helping veterans. Professor, if you could just tell everyone where they can find you. You have a website, what it's called.
Yeah, it's Team Junqueira. You put Team Junqueira, it's going to show probably Morgantown, Pittsburgh, Uniontown. So you put Team Junqueira on the Google, they're going to show all my academies. I have Pittsburgh is in Wexford. Morgantown is Pierpont, Exit inside Pro Performance, and the Uniontown is inside a CrossFit box in the mall. I don't have the address, but this is very easy to find. My name is hard name to speak and to pronounce and to spell, but it's very easy to find. It's not other Junqueira on the area. So
we'll put a link in it too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, here you go.
Find it. But,
all right, Professor, we'll talk to you again. Remember, don't go anywhere. We'll see you here in a minute.
Okay.
Folks, be ready for Andy. Are you buying it or not?
Well, I tell you what, we don't have music yet. I got to get music for this segment.
We don't have music because you don't have line. I can't connect you with Chuck.
This is true. This is true.
You know, we do have to call it part 1 though for the professor because I have to ask him. Jiu-jitsu is a game of inches. Why do you hate me? His pressure is insane. His pressure is when he talked about pressure and it being miserable, it's insane.
Well,
it's miserable.
I don't doubt it for a second. All right, folks, in our I Ain't Buying It segment. All right, let's break this down. CNN's Harry Enton says Americans don't understand the connection between climate change and wildfires. Let me get this straight. Because we aren't Googling climate change when we're searching for wildfires, we must not get it? Seriously? That's the freaking argument here? Listen, Harry, maybe people aren't searching for climate change because they're too busy looking up evacuation routes, how to protect their homes, or maybe even praying their loved ones are safe. You know, real life concerns. But no, according to the so-called experts, it's because we're all too ignorant to grasp the grand connection. And let's talk about this connection. Sure, climate change is a factor, but it's not the only factor. What about forest management? What about infrastructure failures? Or how about this? Arson. Oh, yeah. Yeah, people starting fires on purpose. Go figure. But no, it's easier to paint all of this with a big, broad brush labeled climate change and call it a day. Convenient, right? The thing is, most Americans do understand that climate change impacts our environment. But here's what Harry doesn't get. Connecting the dots doesn't mean buying into every narrative that's spoon-fed to us. Maybe, just maybe, we're more concerned with immediate practical solutions to wildfires than wading through political talking points about carbon footprints. So no, I'm not buying the idea that Americans are clueless or disconnected. We see what's happening. We care about what's happening, but not every disaster needs to be a soapbox moment for the climate agenda. Sometimes a wildfire is just a wildfire. And that is why I ain't buying it. You're mute.
I'm mute. That one cut. I like there was a lot I liked in that one. We ready for veterans helping veterans?
Yes. You take it or you want me to take it?
I'll run it down real quick. I got it pulled up.
I guess I got to hit the music, don't I?
These are good times we live in, folks. These are good times. So in honor, we were talking to Professor Rodrigo Junqueira out of Pittsburgh, Morgantown, and Uniontown. And, you know, we found a charity we've talked about once before on here. We'll talk about it again. It's the WeDefyFoundation.org. It's WeDefyFoundation.org. They're helping wounded veterans take Brazilian Jiu Jitsu classes. They help start up, get them going on the mats, let the healing begin. As a professor talked about, the mental as well as emotional and physical well-being that you work on in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. There actually is a foundation helping wounded warriors get on the mats in local areas in vetted gyms. Try WeDefy.org if you support Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and want to help spread the sport and looking to help veterans as well. You can find that on WeDefyFoundation.org. That's WeDefyFoundation.org. We Defy Foundation, all one word, .org. Check them out.
That's right.
Comment, click like down below.
That's right. And subscribe. Please subscribe.
Don't tap from pressure.
That's right. Anyway,
You go to sleep.
I love the fact that this is only part 1. And can't wait to do part 2. All right, folks, we will catch you next week. Bye-bye.
You're listening to Nothing's Off the Table with Andy and Lou and Admiral.